Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's been a long time since I last talked to you or anybody uh, in this group. Um, as you can probably tell, uh, I did not succeed in my little development challenge I gave myself. I just don't think it was realistic. I think there was no shot I was going to be able to do 100 days of game development. Um, because it's tough. It's tough to, I guess, just as like a human race, it's tough. It's tough to have consistency and commit to doing something every single day. It's tough. But besides that, I don't think that necessarily means I'm done. There are still definitely a lot of things I want to explore. Sometimes I come back to Roblox and I see some new features being added. They're really cool, like the new kind of motion capture webcam they've been doing. I thought that was pretty interesting. Um, so I don't think it's necessarily that like I failed the challenge. I can never juggle it. I think I said. I just think that I can use it as a tool rather than trying to make two halves of my life. I think I was trying to separate Roblox from the other game development that I was doing in my other life, like socially and in courses and stuff. And I don't think that has to be the case. I think um, I can it's hard because I do use like a different I guess it's like a different face that I'm using for Discord. Like I'm not actually Hound, and I don't. It's hard to communicate with Roblox developers if I'm being honest. They're kind of bad communicators. It's like I don't know if you've seen videos on it, but the whole Roblox developing community is not very good. Anyways, but yeah, I don't think that's failing that challenge necessarily means I'm gone. I just wanted to leave that as a note, kind of before this kind of podcast starts. These are short term podcasts, short term, short form, so not that long, not an hour, of course. I'm gonna try to record 2 of these tonight and get them out to you. This one is going to be about scope. Um, Scope is a term in game development. It's a term that you might have heard before. You might first be thinking of a sniper scope or a scope that would go on a gun. Um, that is not referring to this term. Scope in game development terms is usually referring to the concept or plan of a video game. So when you look at the scope, it's kind of what the developers had in mind for the mechanics and dynamics of the game, such as like features and stuff that they would want to try to incorporate. And scope management can be really, really tough. I've definitely struggled with scope before, and I think honestly a prime example of that is Pirates Revolution. I can take what's kind of like a good case, bad case about Pirates Revolution is like, yes, I spent so much time on Pirates Revolution developing it, changing, iterating, all this, but honestly, now that I've like gone through some courses of game design, I can like look back on it and realize where I fucked up. Cause that like in the moment of those years, I was like wandering. I was like kind of like lost. I was like, what the fuck? Like, what happens? Why am I changing? All so much shit. But now that I've like learned these terms, learned how to work on projects with the groups, learned what it actually feels like to be on a group project instead of talking just to random people over Discord. Um, it's definitely changed my opinion, for sure. which is why I think I might come back and just use Roblox as a tool, maybe to make some cool showcases. Um, but yeah, so Scope, Pirates Revolution, I managed very, very poorly. There was multiple times over the years where had to, where I told myself that I had to completely redo everything. Whether that meant redoing every single island, or redoing like the planned devil fruits, or attack swords content, just everything. That was very, very bad scope management. When you set a scope for a game, you want to try to just envision what the final project might look like, and then just try to have that as a base. Oftentimes in game development, there becomes a scenario which is considered scope creep. And scope creep essentially is when you're getting stuff done on your project and you think that you can add to your scope. And a lot of people make this mistake. A lot of people give in to scope creep, and they end up adding a bunch of stuff that they think they could get into it because of how good the progress is going, and then they end up like kind of messing up, and that causes delays or budgetary issues. Budget we can talk about later in another video. I can kind of talk about that with my experience on Pirates Evolution, but for this video I just want to talk about scope. And when I talk about scope creep, I really mean that is like what hit me. That is what hit me hard. That like probably the hardest on Pirates Revolution. I started with simple graphics, simple maps. I just started game development. I'm reminding you, Pirates Revolution has been a game that's gone on since I started game development back in 2019. Obviously, I honestly consider that project like abandoned like 2 years ago, honestly. There has not been enough time spent on it to be considered like it's still ongoing. In a way, Pirates Revolution was my dream game. And as a naive game developer, I just wanted to, I get into game development, I just want to create what I want to create. So I wanted to create my dream game. And as I'm learning all the tools and stuff, I'm making this game, and then as I become more experienced in game development, I look back at what I made, I'm like, oh, this doesn't look that good, let me redo it. And that's altering the scope, because I'm changing. Instead of just keeping the base form that I created and adding new functions, I went back and redid the functions I already implemented, which wasn't necessary and just caused delays. Like, once the scripts were done, I could have went back and fixed the islands easy peasy, and we would have still had a game to publish, but I didn't. I planned really, really bad around developers and managing developers. I could not manage developers. I had no budget. I had a production manager, but that was a kind of its own fiasco. But yeah, it's just a lot of mistakes, a lot of learning that I've done. And so I just wanted to teach you a little bit about scope and how that affected Pirates Evolution. All the meetings where I'd like talk to you guys about ideas and stuff and potential like things to add, that is an example of scope creep. I wanted to add new stuff. I wanted to add cool stuff. I wanted to add cool stuff to a project that I couldn't even complete in the first place. That's its own whole issue. I can talk more about production in a different video, and all that goes into that with budgets and other stuff. I might just break it up into separate videos, but just talk about production as an overall in one. Like for example, scope is a part of production. There are 3 kind of phases in game development. There's pre-production, which is when you plan for production. That's kind of where the scope comes in, the design documents, all that. And then production is the actual creation of the game. So there's actually, when you're making a game, there's actually a phase before where you're just straight up planning and you're not really creating any assets or anything, which is much needed in game development. Yeah, so that was just a little bit about scope. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comments. I'm going to post another video shortly about something, either budget or production, since I think I'm already on that topic. But yeah, thank you, and I will see you soon.